193 AD, Rome, a storm. Heavy, oppressive clouds obscure the sun, and the ground trembles beneath the weight of the crowd's unrest. The Colosseum, without a doubt, is preparing for the greatest spectacle in its history. On its vast arena, the fiercest gladiators will clash, but among them, one will stand apart. She will step onto the sand where death lingers in the air, but she will not be just another tool for the crowd's entertainment. Dynamia, Emperor Severus, seated in the imperial box, watched with undeniable interest. He knew this would not just be a fight, it would be an event. A woman stepping into the arena to face men would serve as yet another testament to his brutal power. But she, unlike the others, wore more than just armor. She wore a fury that burned within her, her eyes alight like embers, ready to ignite at any moment. Dynamia was not a typical gladiator. Unlike the men who fought with heavy weapons and full armor, she relied on agility and speed. Her armor was light, leather-bound, designed not to hinder movement, deadly and swift. In her hand, she wielded a short sword, a gladius, its tip gleaming in the torchlight. There was no shield. Why would she need one? She didn't defend, she destroyed. Dynamia did not think about protection. She thought about offense. Her opponent, Gaius, a seasoned and massive gladiator, was clad in heavy bronze armor, his shield covering him from head to toe. In his hands he wielded a long sword, its blade as hot as fire. He was used to fighting to the death, tearing everything in his path apart. He had seen blood, but he did not know what he was up against. He did not know who he was facing. At first their movements were like two sides of a monstrous machine. The thunderous clang of Gaius's heavy armor as he lumbered across the arena, each swing of his sword capable of splitting flesh. Dynamia, on the other hand, moved like a shadow, her movements so fast they seemed to blur. She didn't try to defeat him with force. She tried to destroy his spirit. With each of Gaius's strikes, with every swing of his blade, she dodged like a serpent, forcing him to waste his blows on empty air. This was not a fight. This was a game, a terrifying game in which Gaius was the puppet. Blood, blood on the sand. Dynamia didn't just dodge, she parried and then, in one swift motion, sliced across Gaius's helmet. He staggered and she was already behind him. A light strike against his shield and it flew out of his grasp. He turned, but she was already one step ahead. When Gaius fell to his knees, bloodied and defeated, he realized this was not just another loss. He was losing to a woman. That thought cut deeper than the blade he wielded. It was humiliating. Then when death seemed inevitable, she did something unimaginable. Dynamia raised her sword but not to strike. She looked up into the eyes of Emperor Severus, who watched from his golden throne. She was not just a tool for his spectacle. She was a woman, and she was not going to please him. She was going to challenge the very system. "I will not be your instrument," her voice rang out across the Colosseum. The crowd fell silent. Severus froze, his eyes locking with hers. In that moment of stillness, she did not just defy Gaius. She defied everything he represented. She was no longer just a gladiator. She had become a symbol of rebellion, of a woman fighting for her freedom, standing against the suffocating might of the Roman Empire. Dynamia turned and walked off the arena floor. The ancient Colosseum felt empty, but her figure, walking into the dark, would forever remain in the memories of those who witnessed it. The system which tried to control everything, even death, had been stained by her resolve. She walked away, but in that moment, amidst the fear and awe, a new era had begun in the heart of Rome. An era of female gladiators. An era where the victors were not always the ones the people expected. Gladiators, as a rule, earned about 1 to 2 denarii a day, barely enough for subsistence. But for the winners, especially those like Dynamia, these blood-soaked spectacles could bring fame, wealth, and perhaps even freedom. But freedom came at a steep price, and Dynamia, though she may not have known it, had already paid for hers. But in the end, this was not just a fight. It was an act of resistance that reverberated throughout Rome.